We have somehow made it to 50 episodes of this game, and I'm just taking a moment to let that sink in and recognize, that's a lot. This is by far the longest game that I have ever run in any capacity, whether GMing for a group or myself is now easily longer than any of my other Ironsworn experiences, and I really appreciate that you've been with me along the way to get to that point, and at the moment being super appreciative of all the people who have come to start listening after the interview over on Solo Roleplayers podcast. Let's just say it's been a noticeable difference in the viewership, so thank you so much for giving me a chance, and thank you again to PJ for having me on, of course. Before I get started recording another one, just taking that moment to recognize how many little twists and turns have come along the way over the course of these episodes. When I started off, I really had no idea what this game was going to be. I had the background vow about VY572, and admittedly, we've kind of gotten a little off course from pursuing that background vow for a little while, and I do intend to get back to it more fully, but I can't say I'm disappointed with what we've been doing instead. This world has gotten so much more fleshed out now to me. So many different characters and, opportunities for me to try and flex doing different voices and stuff. I've been having a lot of fun. I hope you've been having a lot of fun listening, and I hope you enjoy this one.
Stranded in space on a ship crashing into the atmosphere of an unknown planet, Emile Spencer knew that the only way to survive would be by his own wits and guile. He vowed that somehow he would find and slay the titanic cosmic beast that put him in this predicament, VY572. With every installment, we follow Emile's explorations and discoveries on this journey of revenge against all odds. I'm Midnight Jester, and this is the Left Behind Starforge series.
It was the drugs episode last time. Yeah, pretty much the entire thing was defined by Emile being just aggressively paranoid from having been poisoned, and the effect that was having on his perceptions of everything. And, to a degree, that's still going to be the case this episode, but we started off with Emile needing to run for his life from the cultists from Anubis. He was able to escape, leaping over a bar and going on a bit of a foot chase as we saw them clearly having a different sort of relationship with iron. We learned about how they had used iron in order to make this poison, and one of them was able to just kind of shift iron with their hands and make it flow like they were melding stone into a different shape. Emile, thankfully, was just faster and knew about the underground as a way to get to, was able to get into that building that had an access point to it, escaped in there, and lost his pursuers. Then, after regaining a little bit of a calm, he made his way back up top to where the builder is, freaked the hell out of Rat Pack with his mania, and since Rat Pack wouldn't let him in to hide with the builder, Emile just activated the device that would allow him to pass straight through solid matter, and in doing so, he went through the security door, down through the floor, and has found himself holed up inside the room that controls the jump process of all of Hyperion Station. He thought for a little while about how he might be able to get the station itself, all of Hyperion, to, in one single jump, head over to Cinder and be there as part of the defense. And more importantly, to his state of mind, he'd be back in an area where he had a bunch of allies. At the time, he was feeling very vulnerable. He did the work, though, did the diagnostics and calculations and stuff, and determined that Hyperion's energy core was not going to be enough to be able to do that all in one jump. It was going to crap out, it was going to redline everything and break apart, and his fear was that in trying to hold out to do it in one solid jump, the jump engines would redline and break down before being able to do the great power surge that is necessary to pull out of warp. And if you do that, as we discussed last time, you could be stranded in a sort of subspace forever. Nobody knows exactly what happens when you do that. And so his plan shifted. Rather than trying to find safety by taking all of Hyperion over to Cinder, he decided that instead he had an opportunity here. Pieces clicked into place as he recognized that the people that were from Anubis were here hunting him down. They were the ones who must have poisoned him, and the jump capabilities of this station, by generating a sort of warp bubble when it happens, can affect all the things inside of it. he looked up the logs and found that those ships from Anubis, they had not yet left, but they were in the process. They were about to head off and start being on their way to Cinder. But if he could get this done before they actually leave the sphere of influence of Hyperion, Emile could try and force their engines into just jumping away in a direction of his own choosing. Now, before we get into that, before we return to that moment, there's one thing that we don't have to do anymore, and that's check to see if the coup attempt proceeds. Because one other thing that happened last time was that Magpie's coup attempt happened. We know it was successful. We don't know exactly how it has looked yet, but we know that the coup finally happened. Valkyrie has been ousted as the leader of Concord. And so I just want to get, as our vignette this time, a little bit of a glimpse of what's going on down there. Like, what has changed now that Magpie is controlled? Because he did all of this under the auspices of Valkyrie isn't doing a good job keeping us safe. We're sitting ducks out here. We need a better plan. All of that. Like, I can protect you better. That kind of classic thing. So what is he doing that's different? Now that Magpie has the seat of power, how does Concord look different? And so I think what's going to most represent this, while still leaving a little bit up in the air of exactly some of the events that have happened, we're going to focus in on the people that are out by the Reacher, like outside of the cave, working on the digging process, digging the channel to be ready for the lava flow, because it's just, even though they've been working on it for a while, it's just a lot of work. It was still in progress. But we catch in with them as everybody is packing their stuff back up. All the equipment is being removed. It's being loaded into skiffs. All the shovels, all the people. It probably takes several journeys, but as we look at it, this is like the last of it, as they're just packing up the last of the things. It's the last skiff, as everybody is abandoning this process, because word has come down that this is not the way forward. This is a fool's errand to try and depend so heavily on the Reacher and on air support entirely. Perhaps we get this through the lens of two of the workers that are just having a conversation about this. One of them, for the sake of the audience, one of them is giving the exposition to the other, because there's like a newer person out there who's like, I don't understand. We just came out here. Why are we packing all this stuff up? The job isn't done. And the other guy, somebody who's, carrying a box of something, is loading into the skiff, and is just like, man, you haven't heard? This isn't the way. Orders from on top have changed. New leadership, and we're not going for the air battle anymore. And fuck the Reacher. Well, how exactly are we going to defend ourselves? I mean, the Imperium is still coming. What do you mean, how are we going to defend ourselves? Haven't you seen the iron door that keeps us safe from the heat? That thing is thick, man. They're going to have to work to get through that in the first place. And when they do, they're going to be so vulnerable. Everybody's coming at us from one direction. And we're going to volley all of our fire out at them. The Imperium's going to wish they didn't bother. I don't know if we have enough guns for that kind of plan. Well, that's why we're going to make it, man. You need to get reassigned. The orders now are it's not about diggers anymore. It's all about going to the junk pile. We need to sift through everything we can, find everything that can become a weapon, and weaponize it. Well, if that's what the work is, that's what I'll do. So, just a little bit of a taste of how things are changing. I'm going to give us the +1 momentum from that. And now let's get back to one Mr. Emile Spencer, who is racing against the clock to try and warp these ships out of here before they take off. We mentioned that the people of Anubis were here, but the window is closing because at the moment they are waiting for their approval to be able to leave. Everything is coordinated through the station. There are windows where they have to go in and out, and theirs has almost arrived, but they're not quite there yet. So I think as a result of some of the things that we did last time, when Emile was gathering information and preparing for this, I think he knows specifically where the ships are parked. Like, he knows where they're waiting now. He doesn't need to find that information. I really want to handle this all in just kind of the one roll. I don't think there's a need to really break this down any more than that. He has an eye on the ships. He is going to try and hack a new program of his making into this jump system. Because the thing is designed to only ever take the entire station. What he's trying to do now has always been theoretically possible, that you could isolate things within the warp bubble and send only them. That you could kind of like expand it out and collapse it into a specific area. It's obviously been pretty dangerous because you could easily accidentally only send parts of the ship somewhere. Like, nobody ever really wants to do this because there's too much of a chance of it going wrong, and usually there's not really any reason to. So Emile is going to have to make this happen. Because while I say that the window is closing, he's only got so much time to do this before they can get out of here, I think we're still talking on the order of like, well, let's find out. Let's ask the Oracle, actually, how much time he has. So I think that could wind up changing tactics a little bit based on how far out this is. We're going to do our classic. So I think it is almost certain that Emile has at least 10 minutes before they're about to leave. Yes. I think it is likely that Emile has half an hour, at least. No. Okay, so somewhere between 10 minutes and a half an hour. Like, that means it is... I want to ask one more question, because it is not clear to me if it's in that amount of time, like, are they already in the ships? Because I guess Emile wouldn't know that, but even still, I want to know as a player, are the cultists already within the ships? Because it may take some time to like get everything started up and ready to go, get the engines running, do all of your checklist stuff before actually taking out of the station. I don't know how long that takes. Maybe they're already inside the ship. Maybe they will be there soon enough when their launch window actually comes. I think that I'm going to put it at just a 50-50. So are they currently inside their ships? Yes. It was barely a yes, but it was. Okay, and that makes sense to me. I think it does indeed take some amount of time to start up. That you don't just go, and you want to be ready to go when the window comes. So they're in there, they're doing their stuff, which does mean that Emile could not do the full-on, like, jump them into warp and then have them be lost forever, because they'd presumably be able to jump out of warp. You know, they'll be at the controls to be able to do that. I guess the question is, could he... Maybe he could program this in such a way that he just redlines and breaks their engine right from the beginning, just pushing it too hard in the way that it enters warp, that alone breaks their engines. Anyway, let's have him try to do this. We're definitely going to be leaning into our tech asset of creating a computer program to perform a specific complex function. Because I think since the jump code is mostly there, he just has to modify it in ways to, like, he's maybe patching some things together to get, like, using like schematics of the ship and where things should theoretically be to position how to collapse the warp bubble, and doing math and stuff to pinpoint like what things actually get sent on. I think that's something that somebody as smart as Emile could potentially do in 10 minutes, like in the like 10 minute, 15 minute, however much he has on that order. I think that's something that's reasonable that he might be able to do. So we are going to, I guess we're doing this as secure an advantage, and then we'll do the actual jump thing as a face danger, because that's certainly where the danger comes in. So anyway, we get to add +2 to this, and we'll take +1 momentum on a hit. So this is definitely a secure an advantage with wits. We get our +2. Ooh. We start off just barely, but it is a miss. I rolled a 6 and a 7 on the challenge dice, and I only got a 6, so we just barely did it. Now, because we gained the 1 momentum at the beginning of the session, I could burn that momentum to turn this into a weak hit, and I think that is very much what I should be doing here. I want this program to happen. Emile wants it to happen. Let's reset our momentum. Now, because it's a weak hit, we have two options. We can either take a +1 on our next move, or take 2 momentum. Now, when we use this program, we're going to have the ability to re-roll any dice, so I don't think it makes sense to do it as +1 on the next move. Let's take the momentum back, and because of our tech asset, we do get +1 momentum on a hit, and this became 1. So we had 7 momentum, we burned it, and then we got all the way back up to 4. Not too bad there. I think part of the reason why this is going to be momentum and not a +1 is that Emile does have, like, on one of the monitors that he's looking at, he's got like a video feed up maybe of what's going on in the hangar to keep tabs on like when they're going to be leaving, and he sees the clock is running out, and the program, he didn't have quite the opportunity to really bug check it to the degree that he wanted to. The time was running out too much, so he had to just be like, this should theoretically work, but I can't really know for sure, and that's why, like, he's not getting the +1 on doing this. He had to just kind of speed up and be like, oh shit, the window, it's happening now. They're, like, clearly, they started up the process to be able to actually start leaving. And he's like, it's got to be now. There's no time for it. So let's do that face danger. I think this is also going to be a wits move. It's definitely about like expertise and focus, like particularly the focusing of the the jump onto a specific location. So his intent here, I think despite what I said earlier, I don't think there would be a reasonable way where he could just like send them into warp so hard that it just like broke their own engines to be able to come out of warp. That's probably not possible, given that the whole point of this is that it's using Hyperion's energy core to do it. And these are much smaller ships, and if anything, it would damage Hyperion to do that. It would not damage their ships. You know, he's slingshotting them away. So I think what he's going to do instead of trying to get them utterly lost in subspace forever is he's doing this in such a way that he sends them on a route that's like dangerous. Like it sends you too close to stellar objects and things like that. This is a route that any ship computer would buck at. Automatic things would come up and let you know, like, you can't take this route. It's too dangerous. Like it would kick it back. So Emile has to like override some of those things in the process to allow the ship's computer to get the ship's computer to allow him to do it. He has to do some overrides because, yeah, he is sending them on a wrong path. And so when they do come out of warp, the odds are it's going to be quite damaging to their ship, or they're going to have to wait so long that their engines, like, you know, with their power core, when it takes over the warp process, you know, the like idle nature to keep them in warp, which happens once they leave Hyperion's sphere of influence, though that power core might be pushed to the brink and not be able to make it because they just have to wait too long. Anyhow, he's going to try and send them off into peril. Specifically, not in the direction of Cinder. Probably sending them off to who knows where. Maybe he's not sending them on any particular route. So it's really anybody's guess where they might end up. Anyhow, let's finally do this. So there's another face danger with wits. If I were doing this roll to specifically just to try and bypass the like automated flags that would stop you from setting this route, then I would maybe give myself the tech +1 for like disrupting an electronic system. But because this is encompassing more than that, I'm not going to bother giving myself that. We're just going to roll it straight, recognizing that because we're using this computer program, I can re-roll any dice that I want. So here we go. Straight wits roll. Oh, but I don't even need to. That is a strong hit right on its own. The challenge dice were only a 1 and a 2. That was no problem. So you're successful. Take +1 momentum. All the way back up to +5 now. Good thing that this was successful, though, because I think it easily could have been that if that went wrong, I would have interpreted that, like, the isolation went wrong, and he may have sent Hyperion itself along that route, and it would have been a real problem. But his proof of concept works. Suddenly, to the great surprise of anybody else in the hangar, and in a way that, even though this is a strong hit, I think it's still like an impactful, like almost like a sonic boom happens in there where just out of nowhere, ships warp out of Hyperion. And that is not supposed to happen. I suppose it's always been technically possible. Like, a ship could do that. And as far as they know, that was something that the pilots did. Like, a ship could do that. And I think because this was a full-on strong hit, I don't think anybody's actually going to be aware that came from Hyperion. Nobody who's not looking at the logs can tell. Like, to them, it just looks like the ships themselves jumped into warp. And, like, maybe a couple of people who are more specifically paying attention could have seen, like, the visible effect of a warp bubble kind of, like, being way wider than what those ships would generate and then collapse down and then send them off on their way. And see that, like, it was a bubble. It wasn't two separate bubbles. It was one that encompassed both of them. But it was a strong hit, so Emile successfully does not, like, harm the station or anybody in it along the way. Like, the ships are just gone. And maybe in time somebody will figure out what exactly happened. But for the moment, there's every reason to think that he's gotten away with it clean. You know, at the moment, the person who would be most likely to tell that it was actually Hyperion's jump engines and power core that made that happen, it would be somebody sitting in this very room, like somebody able to access and look at this monitor, and that's Emile. So we know nobody is in here to actually see, like, hey, wait a minute, the system came online and everything. Like, maybe somebody else down in an engine room could maybe be like, what the hell? Why is that spinning up? Is it already happening? But again, with it being a strong hit, I don't know that anybody was. I'm going to perhaps be a little bit charitable to myself and say that this is actually worthy of a mark of progress on rid Emile and Fern of the wooden heart. Because whether or not Emile recognizes it, these are the people that were there to get the chaos crystal that would further the wooden heart's agenda. And he is now at the very least delayed that, he's at the very least delayed that considerably. He's pushed back on that agenda and made sure that the heart can't actually continue just yet because it won't have that chaos crystal. It may be a while before the heart even knows from sectors away that these cultists have been thwarted. They were the ones expected to go in. And so I think I'm going to give myself our third box of progress on rid Emile and Fern of the Wooden Heart. This is helping towards that agenda. He just didn't realize that's why he was doing it. And so I think on some level he understands that those were the real people that were after him. He has successfully thwarted them. They don't come back. He's in his shelter here. And some of the effects of the poison are starting to they're getting milder and milder as time has gone on. And so I think Emile has this opportunity here to truly feel safe again. When he's been on edge for the last little while, feeling like fight or flight for a while, he's now able to just have a moment of peace. And so I'm going to give myself the ability to make the heart move, because we found a moment of peace as we sit here, knowing that they're not even on the station anymore. And as a result, as far as he knows, he should be able to stick around here a little bit more to see through this project to the end. Maybe be able to get some more allies that aren't specifically the builder, but work towards some other agenda while he's here. So feeling a little bit relieved from that, we're going to make the heart move. So we roll plus heart, and we get a miss. You take no comfort, and the situation worsens. Pay the price. Emile thinks that he has this moment of peace here. He thinks that he's gotten away with it all. He thinks that he has successfully dispatched the members of Anubis off into their own, just lost in space or having collided with some stellar object, something like that. But he's wrong. While patched into the computer network of all of Hyperion, he sees that the message comes in, and it's something that's meant for the builder's eyes, and it comes from the Imperium. I'm going to advance the Imperium clock by 1. We're now at 3 out of 6, because this is an advance, not warning exactly, but notification, that they're going to be coming through the area in force, and it makes clear, this is not an aggressive act on Hyperion, don't be alarmed when it comes, but you're going to see, warships coming. And that in addition to that, they do plan on docking with Hyperion with some amount of those ships, because the Imperium does not disclose all of what this is for, but they have an important operation in the area, and they wish to be as well armed as possible. They would like to purchase each and every ship that Hyperion has available. And of course, the Imperium actually has the money to back that up. This is the galactic government. The fact that they're purchasing rather than just commandeering is them being nicer than they explicitly have to be. So this is an incredible deal for the builder. When Emile sees it comes in, he recognizes not only the size of the force that's going to be coming that Concord is going to have to try and deal with, but that it's of course going to be even larger with everything that Hyperion has adding to it. And it interferes with his moment of peace quite a bit. So Emile sees this and recognizes, he has a limited opportunity here to maybe make an impact here, because it's going to be bad enough what the Imperium is planning to come with. That's a force to be reckoned with all on its own. But Emile has just demonstrated that he has the ability to send ships that are on Hyperion off on their way. And the ones that the builder and the ones the Imperium is trying to buy, they wouldn't have any pilots, so they'd just be gone forever. Now, of course, doing that would completely take away any friendship that Hyperion has. The builder would fucking hate Emile, and he wouldn't be alone. A lot of work went into making those ships. A lot of people on Hyperion, that's their livelihood. Emile would make a lot of enemies by doing that. But he has the opportunity at the moment, because he has access to this room that people can't deny him. Nobody even seems to know he's in here just yet. The clock is ticking down on how long that will be the case, but he could maybe set something up. Now, at the moment, the power core is in a mandatory rest period, because it had to do its big surge to initiate a jump. He couldn't do it immediately anyway, but he could start doing the legwork to get it set up and work again after it's done. Hell, he could set something to happen as an automated process. Now, importantly, I don't think that Emile wants to screw over Hyperion like that. The Imperium isn't here yet. I think he's going to try to renegotiate with this new information. He's hooked into this network now. Actually, so he sees it the instant that that information is there. And I think the immediate thing he's going to try and do is he's going to try and delete the evidence of it. The builder might not ever get this message. If he deletes the email, he might get it before the builder does, and he can remove any trace of that so that at the very least, the builder doesn't know this deal is on the table. Because it's knowing that much money is dangling in front of his face could get the builder to do something really against what Emile wants. Salvaging the Reacher might ultimately be worth more money than selling all of these individual ships, but this is much more of a sure thing. And he doesn't want the builder to know about that. So let's start with that. Let's do something Emile should be plenty good at, which is disrupting an electronic system. We need to delete all traces of this email. Toot sweet. So easy adjudication here. This is just going to be a face danger with wits, and we get a +1 from our tech asset. The reason this is dangerous and not just... Actually, I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to say this is an edge move rather than a wits move, because the reason this is dangerous is it's not about Emile knowing how to delete an email. That's all well within his capabilities to clean up these sorts of log. It's about how quickly he can do that before the builder notices. So this is going to be an edge-based move, and the danger is indeed that if Emile is spotted messing around with this, it really is going to interfere with his position here, and it's going to incline the builder all the more to want to take a side with the Imperium. To maybe leave behind neutrality because Emile has been doing too much behind the scenes to try and screw him over. So let's do that. Face danger with edge with a +1, because we're still benefiting from the fact that we're so savvy with computers that we're used to operating this quickly. Well, that is going to be hard to interpret well. We got a 9 miss with a match on the attempt to try and clean up the trail here to delete the email. Clearly, Emile tries, and it's noted. He deletes the email, and then a new one comes up on screen from the builder, to himself, basically, but actually addressing Emile, that says something along the lines of, that email seemed like it really merited a response. And Emile recognizes, oh shit, it was noted. Now, as far as we're going to continue from there as far as the narrative complications of that, but for the, pay the price specifically, let's go through all the things that happen. One, I think that indeed, the builder knows exactly where Emile is, and security does now too. They're about to be going down to take Emile into custody for just he's not supposed to be in here. He's certainly trespassing, and he is hacking into their system. All kinds of things they can get him on. They're going to just try and arrest Emile. That's definitely part of it. In addition, I'm going to advance the Imperium's arrival by yet another slice. So we're now at 4 out of 6 on them showing up. And I think the narrative justification for that is just that the builder will indeed send a response that is eager and says what he knows. He basically, he CCs Emile on a message that he sends back out to the Imperium saying, we will be happy to make this deal. I think I know the operation you're talking about. You must be referring to the Vault Hunters on Cinder. He tells them, he gives all the details that Emile gave him. They have an emissary here right now by the name of Emile Spencer who is trying to work up a defense on their behalf. As you well know, Hyperion has not historically taken sides in any conflicts. However, this seems like a good exception. You are welcome to our ships at discount, and we will detain Emile Spencer for you such that you might question him greater. And so I think all of this extra information that they have certainly advances their arrival. Oh, you know what else he might say? I think he even adds in everything else he knows that last time Emile was here was on the Stardust. He forwards in any information they've had about the comings of goings and Emile. Here's everything that you should know about him. He seemed to be, last time he came here, while we didn't ask too many questions at the time, it seemed like he was riding in a governmental vehicle, which seemed strange at the time. perhaps you know more about it. And of course, the Imperium is well aware that, like, they found the Stardust, and so now they know, like, who is involved. All this stuff is coming back together and is all pointing back to Emile as just these, like, the scapegoat for it all. They now know it's all connected, and with that, they know that the Beowulf is involved. Like, everything just kind of clicks into place, and Emile has this, when he's CC'd on it, Emile has a complete oh shit moment of, he knows he is not safe. He is not safe here at all. And so now his mind does indeed turn back to, maybe the best thing is maybe I do need to screw over Hyperion. Like, if they're about to take me on, I'm going to give them a fight. I can send all of these ships away, but every time he does a jump, the thing has got to cool down before he can do it again. So the real question is, what's his big priority here? Is he going to try and just send Hyperion to Concord like he thought about, which was a very risky prospect, but like maybe possible if he's extremely lucky? I don't think so. I think much as like the Builder is, well, not betray is a strong word considering what Emile was trying to do, but he and the Builder have, parted ways. They don't see eye to eye. But I don't think Emile would want to do that to all the other people on Hyperion, like Minna. Like, he wouldn't want to risk their lives. There's too much at stake here. But I think he might indeed be like, maybe in one fell swoop, it may be time to send these ships over to, like, try and send them all to Concord. Just steal them, send them to Concord. Now, the big trick is going to be, yes, he can send them to Warp, but there'd be no pilots in there to take them out, and they'd be outside of Hyperion's influence, so, like, they'd just be lost in space forever. Does Emile have a way to get around this problem? And that's the question. Before we can really even get to that, though, this sort of thing is going to take time. And he has to wait out the jump engines even being accessible again. So I think he wants to fortify his position first and buy himself as much time as possible to do this. So we'll start off relatively simply. We're going to do a secure an advantage with Wits as he just sets up. It's a lot of automated processes, but just make sure like all the locks are done on this door just right, and that it's just as set up as possible to really just create this barricade. Move it, even like a physical barricade. Like, he not only sets up the door to be, he not only has the door all locked, but thinks uses his wits to come up with the best possible way to, like, what objects can be moved that are nice and heavy that aren't going to disrupt the computer system in here. Make a physical barricade as well. I think actually between the two of those, I'm going to make that an edge move because he does have to do this quickly. Security is incoming. So it's how quickly can he make those two barricades? Can he do this before they're arriving anyway? Now, I am going to be a little bit nice to myself and say that because I am a gearhead and I am kind of repurposing equipment in here, it's a stretch, but I'm going to give myself the +1 and the +1 momentum on a hit. As Emile, he's scrambling, but he knows technology well enough to know, like, what can fill these kinds of purposes well? Like, how can I use this for security? Between his scavenger and his gearhead, like, he's got that kind of mindset to just make this, to just kind of repurpose things in the way he needs to. So we're rolling secure an advantage with edge, but we have a +1, and we get... Okay, it's a good thing I had that +1 because we just barely get a weak hit as a result of it. Otherwise, it would have been a full-on miss. Now, as a result of that, that means we can either take 2 momentum, which would be 3 because we have the +1 momentum on a hit, or a +1 on our next move, and then the +1 momentum. I think in this case, this is all about setting himself up, like, not for a specific move. I don't think this is helping him with what he's about to do next in a direct way that would merit a +1. I think this is all about just picking up the pace. So we're going to take the 3 momentum. As Emile has it set up in time, there are definitely people he can hear on the other side of the door that are just like trying to bypass it, but there's an electronic lock to get through. There are physical barriers in the way. It's going to be a process, but there is a security force on the outside who has reached his position. He's just on the other side of a pretty good barricade that he set up. But he knows that means he's got to move quickly. So next phase of the plan, he has thought up a way that maybe he can salvage these ships. To not just send them away, but maybe have an escape himself. So the plan is he is going to try and set up a program like it's a modification of what he did before. Now, I'm not going to give myself the full on like creating a specific complex function because it's basically the same program, it's just slightly tweaked. He's going to dial it in to be like, we're jumping all of these ships in this direction, to Concord, but it's on a timer. He's going to set up that it's all of these ships in the hangar. It's going to happen on a timer. He's giving himself like, let's say like 2 hours. Because the jump engine needs to have time to come back online anyway. And he's going to need time to set up the next part of this because the second phase of this is he's going to need to get to those ships to modify them to actually like come back out of this warp when it happens. But that's a secondary problem. First, he has to just get them out of here anyway. And if that's all he's able to do, if they just go away, at least the Imperium doesn't have them. That's still a step in the right direction. So, let's make this another... Just like last time, there is an element of danger in this, because when this goes off, like, it could just ruin the spaceship. Like, if he doesn't do the program correctly, it could be a real problem. Now, there's a bit of a proof of concept already that it should technically work if he dials in on the right things and nothing moves in that time. So this is a wits move, and I'm going to give myself the +1 from the first part of my tech, because we are, like, reconfiguring the electronic system that, like, the jump system that we've set up. We're changing it up just a little bit to act on a timer and like what it's dialing in on. So we're going to do this wits with a +1. And if we get a weak hit, we can press our luck. So let's see. Face danger, wits with a +1. All right, we do have a weak hit. And as usual, I think I'm going to press my luck. So we're going to re-roll this with a +2. And hopefully we do better. Face danger, wits with a +2. There we go. Yes. That turned it into a strong hit. So we take +1 momentum and are successful. We're now maxed out on momentum. We're all the way up at 9. Emile sets this up. It's on the like 2-hour timer. And from there, like he gets it as just like, this is information that has gone on to the jump engines already. It should work. It should happen on its own. He needs to make sure that this is something that can't be stopped though. And so I think the fastest way for him to do that, rather than worry about like because now the information is out there, I think he's going to try and just disrupt basically the interface to use this computer so that like, yeah, the computer is operational, but a person couldn't really use it without having some mad skills like Emile has to really like hack their way in. It's like the keyboard doesn't work and the monitors don't. I think the way Emile's going to do that, he's going to use his EMP in a very controlled like micro burst of it. But he's going to try and disrupt the key things that allow somebody to actually interact with this system because he knows the jump system is one thing that can only be controlled from here. It is not part of the network. This is the computer that's necessary. And while it will need to be operational in order to like send the command when the timer is up, he'll make sure that all the aspects of actually using it are non-functional. He's going to disrupt that. So this is very much us disrupting an electronic system, which is a +1 from tech. And in addition to that, we're doing it via our EMP move. And as we know, when we use this energy to attack or overcome obstacles, we add +2, and we just use up one of our meter. And our meter is at 2 right now. So between those two things, we're going to have a +3 on this. And it's still a tech move, which will give us the ability to push our luck if we wanted to. And we've got max momentum. There really is very little reason to think this might go wrong, but you never know in this game. So anyway, face danger. I think that the stat is going to be... I think I'm going to use edge rather than wits just because it's the precision of this to not actually disrupt the computer itself as he lets a blast of EMP. Like he has to really shape and control it and focus well. But not the focus of like wits exactly, just his own like physical precision. That seems more like edge to me. So it's going to be an edge move with a +3. And indeed, it's a strong hit. Though the dice came so close to being a double 10, I swear to you, each of them went onto zeros and then rolled one more time. And I was just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. And there it was. Now, granted, once again, we would have had the ability to press our luck. Oh, no, we wouldn't. We can only do that on a weak hit. Had that been a double 10 complication, I would have been just stuck with it. But okay, it's not. We're successful. We take +1 momentum. No need to push this. We already have a strong hit. I'm not going to go searching for a strong hit with a match. We can't take the momentum because we were already maxed out. I move the EMP down as he does, just a little bit of a blast to be like, nope. If you want to try and disrupt this, you're going to have to go a level deeper than that. None of this stuff is going to work. And then he's going to make his escape. Because it's time for Emile to be a ghost in here. He still has the phase shifter. And we mentioned last time how there may come a time where it becomes important, like how long he can keep it going. Because we know that it's kind of uncomfortable while your molecules are vibrating around. He came out of it relatively quickly last time, and we know that you can't use it forever. But we don't know exactly how long that might be. And that sounds like a good opportunity to use a clock. So this is going to be a tension clock that I'm making, which is only going to be 4 segments. And it's going to be the point at which Emile he can't take it anymore. He has to come out of the phase shifter. Because I think he's going to break before the phase shifter does. And at a certain point, his body can't take it anymore. He's going to come out. And I suppose it might also indeed just be beyond the point that it can keep going. It would need repairs after this point. Let's say it's both. So this represents he just can't use it anymore. So lifespan of the phase shifter, we'll call it that, 4-segment clock. As Emile indeed activates the thing, and he's going to make his escape. Because when they finally get through this room, he's not going to be there. He needs to do the next part of his plan. He's thinking it through as he's swimming through the station, getting to where he needs to be. And particularly because we're on the clock, I'm going to make that a roll. Because just like last time, he has to kind of guess where he's going. He can't really see very well when he's just swimming through solid matter. He wants to wind up in the right place, and he certainly doesn't want to accidentally just wind up out in space. For all he knows, if he gets really turned around in there and goes in one direction for too far, he could just phase himself right through the outside of the ship and into space and just fucking die. So there's some stakes involved. This is definitely some danger. Just like before, it's about, I think it's about edge. It's the mobility to get there and not get turned around, all of that. And as far as connecting to my own personal experiences, I am just thinking back to even when I can see. I've done some amount of scuba, and when visibility isn't as wonderful, I can still see, but not as well, it is so easy if you're not using your tools and compass and stuff and everything. If you're not paying close attention, how quickly you can just get turned around and lose track of how far you've gone or where your bearings are. It happens fast. So I can definitely understand this being a problem for Emile. Now, he might well be able to make use of having his AR help him. Some positioning system. Just getting coordinates within the map. Maybe we could set something like that up. But I think he's trying to do this fast enough. I don't know that he would. I think he would just be I gotta get out of here. Because they're making their way through the door. At this point, they're just working through physical barrier. And maybe even he can hear on the other side them talking about how they're going to just throw in a gas grenade or something. Just knock him out so that he can't do anything. And he's well, nope, time to get out. And so activates the phase shifter. Goes straight through the wall and off into the ship. So he is trying to get back to the hangar area. Because he wants to ghost his way inside of the various ships that are going to be, that he's targeted to just blast away. So let's get there. We're going to do the edge move. No particular adds to this. And we get... Okay, it is a weak hit, which means we're successful, but not without a cost. Make a suffer move. I think easily the suffer move could just be, let's fill in the clock segment. That's basically a -1 on one of the other tracks. It's just, he's ripping through the time that he's got as a ghost. He had to, indeed slow down a little bit, get his bearings, make sure that he wasn't getting himself out into the vacuum of space. And in that process, he has to withstand this a lot. He's going through a lot of the ship now. To go all the way back to the hangar, that takes a while. And he's trying to not come out a lot of the time. He doesn't want to emerge in a hallway all that often because he doesn't want security to find him. He wants to just be ghosting through the walls and in no-clip mode. But he keeps going and he's gritting his teeth. He makes it to the hangar, and Now it's really about a stealth more than anything. Because he's out in the open and needs to make it inside one of the ships without, like, he needs to make it from ship to ship without being noticed. And yes, he definitely has a bonus narratively from the fact that he can just phase through things, but because he needs to see where he's going, like, that can only get him so far. This is a big open room. It would be near impossible for him to just, like, come up from the floor at the right places and just be completely unseen. It's just way too much to negotiate. So we don't do this a lot, but this is definitely going to be a shadow move. So this is just going to represent Emile going, like, this is the totality of Emile going around. It's not him getting to, we're not going to do, like, one ship and then the next and the next. Like, this is him doing it in general. And exactly how it looks will narrate based on the results of this, but if he's successful at getting into one of the ships, like, he'll also be able to get into others nearby and stuff like that. So, face danger with Shadow. I am so glad we have a lot of momentum right now, because we don't have anything to add to this. Let's do it. Well, fuck. We may have a lot of momentum, however, we have 9 momentum. And that was a double 9 miss with a match. Our momentum does not save us. And my action die came up a 1. It did not try at all. So on a miss, you fail, or momentary success is undermined by a dire turn of events. Pay the price. Now with the double 9 complication, I feel like it might be interesting. Like, what if Emile had to come out of phase while he was still partially inside of an object? Like, he just couldn't take it anymore, or the machinery couldn't take it anymore. And he is just like halfway in. He's just like halfway inside a spaceship when it craps out. Maybe even it's just that, like, because these ships have shields and stuff, it interferes with the phase shifter enough that he, like, pokes through and it disrupts it. As, you know, we talked about how this is something he wears at, like, his belt line. And so he's, like, halfway through, and as his belt line is going to be passing through the energy field, where the shield is generated, it disrupts it, breaks the phase shifter, and so now his legs are sticking out from this ship. His torso is on the inside of it, completely separated. We're definitely going to take some hit to our health on, like, this is bad for a body to be sharing the same space as other molecules. That's not supposed to happen. So we're definitely all the way filling up the clock already. Like, that's just broken. He can't use the phase shifter anymore. And in addition to that, he is currently partway through a ship. Like, I don't really know how you solve that without a phase shifter, because he can't even reach it. Even if he wanted to try and repair it or something, it's on the half of his body that's on the other side of solid matter. Now, so let's take some health for that. Let's call it just like a minor, because there's only a thin belt of him that's truly sticking through an object, but God, honestly, in another game, in a darker game, I might have this just utterly amputate both his legs and he's bleeding out in there, like, because, you know, it just shears him in two. Because we're doing more whimsical, just like out there sci-fi though, we're going to indeed have it where it's bad for the body, but the molecules are kind of sharing space, and he's still, like, he can even control his legs outside the body. Like, they're kicking around. He's just got this thing going all the way through him, and it feels awful. He's in a tremendous amount of pain, but it's theoretically reparable because we're in kooky sci-fi land. So let's make that clear. It doesn't just cut his legs off, even though I did think about it. This is more like if you've seen The Venture Brothers, the first episode of season 2, there is certainly a person who winds up having teleported into various different places and is partly sticking out of certain things. It's more like that. Now, I think Emile recognizes that he's fucked, right? Like, they may not immediately see him because I think it's still, you know, he's in a big room. He might not immediately be spotted, but he has no way to recover from this, and they're going to get him, right? So I think his plan is maybe he can make away with one ship. Yeah, this is a single snub-nosed fighter. He's sticking in through the side and can maybe just barely kind of reach the controls well enough that he can just pilot this away, sending it on its way back towards Concord, sending it on its way back towards Cinder under his manual control. so it doesn't get sent away with all the rest of them. All the rest of the ships might well just, vanish away when the timer is up, but maybe Emile can just escape on his own and get help back on the planet. And of course, little does he know, he's going to come back to a situation where Magpie is in control, and he's going to be so incredibly vulnerable where, like, he's just halfway sticking out of a ship. Half his body is going to be sticking through, like, the vacuum of space, but at least it's not the breathy bits. Yeah, this is all kinds of messed up. Sometimes, though, you just got to be so happy with the way Double Nine Complications utterly throw a wrench in the gears. I thought for sure with our high moment... Anyway, let's not talk about it. Let's just do the stuff. So, yeah, I think this is just an all-important... This is a face danger with Edge, I think. We're going to rule that, because I think it's more interesting of a story, that I'm going to say that he is close enough to indeed operate the controls. Like, he can reach things. I'm not going to leave that up to chance. I like the story going this way. But it's really hard to pilot like this, so he's going to have to fly out of this station before anybody catches up with him to just, like, I don't even know what they would do about it. I guess they could operate the phase shifter so they could maybe do something or cut him out of there. Oh, I forgot to do the health hit. We said it was supposed to be really bad for the body. We need to do that. So let's do a suffer move. We're going to endure harm because we have definitely faced some physical injury. I'm going to be nice and just call it -2 rather than full-on -3 harm. But our health is only 1 right now, so we go down to 0 either way. And our momentum we have an overflow hit to our momentum as that goes down to 8. And because we're at 0, we have to make this roll to endure the harm. So it's going to be health or iron, whichever is higher, which is, in this case, iron, unfortunately. We do have the momentum, at least. Hey, I don't even need it. I actually got a natural strong hit on that. So we could shake it off. If we are not wounded, we could take +1 health, or embrace the pain and take +1 momentum. I mean, as a player, I'm definitely more interested in taking the health. What does it mean to shake it off? How do you shake off just being part of this ship in some ways? I don't know. I mean, I'm going to get the +1 health back, but what does that narratively mean versus embrace the pain? I think basically what that represents is just that there's a moment where it's utterly excruciating when it first kind of clips him in, but then things just kind of adjust. The molecules work around each other, and he can't escape, but it stops being excruciatingly painful. Like, it just kind of works better than he might have expected. Where now, yeah, half of him is sticking out on one side and half of him is sticking out on the other. And he's not really sure physically how it all works, like why he can still control his legs. Like, it doesn't make any kind of sense, but we're in sci-fi land. And yeah, he shakes off. It's no longer excruciating, so he can focus on the task at hand. Let's do that edge move I was talking about to try and just fly out of here before anybody notices and just does the arresting that they're trying to do. So here we go. Edge, I'm glad we still have that momentum. There is definitely not an asset to cover anything that's going to help us get a bonus on this. We're in some new ground right now. We're not an ace pilot or anything like that. Oh, I guess what I could do, we are so close. Maybe the reason why he's close enough to do all this is like he can control it from his computer. No, his computer, we've always described, his computer is also on like a belt thing. It's on the outside. I don't think he can use his AR or computer or anything, so he'd have to be doing this manually. All right, yeah. No setting this up with having, with controlling it from with his like glove or anything like that. No, he's just going to have to actually fly with these controls. So face danger with Edge. Let's not put it off anymore. That's a miss. And once again, we had a 9 and a 10. The dice are resisting my momentum so hard right now. You fail, or momentary success is undermined by a dire turn of events. Pay the price. Okay, so Emile is there. He's been reaching and reaching. He's just able to get at some of the controls. He's got the pre-flight stuff working on, all the systems checks, because he still wants us to be safe. He can barely see what he's doing. He can't see out the cockpit because he's just like coming in from the side, only just able to reach controls, but he's just about ready to throttle this in a way, like he's just about ready to actually throttle this up and start moving it through like an exit procedure through the station, which he would have to be able to do with like just coordinates that he programmed in or something, because he can't even really see. He's just about to like pull down on a thing that initiates that sequence, when suddenly he gets hit in the leg with basically just like the darts of a taser, and just shocked, and he passes out. Clearly the security team is caught up with him. And while they are scratching their heads over exactly how Emile is even doing what he is doing, they have caught up. As for what the situation is going to be when Emile wakes up, well, that's a question for next time. It's been a good hot minute since we've had a good, just like, utter sci-fi bullshit kind of moment, and clearly that's where this episode led this time, and it always makes me so happy. That kind of stuff that just reinforces the real genre and tone I'm trying to go for. Like, the fact that Emile is halfway sticking through a spaceship and just like, he's clipping through. That's what this game is supposed to be about to me. Well, that and in, like a distant second, VY572. But this is the tone I'm going for. I'm happy that kind of moment happens. It makes me want to get back into the game. A couple of things. One, there have been a lot of new listeners ever since the interview with Solo Role Players podcast. And some of you, it seems like, have gone just straight to the end, if I'm reading this correctly. Maybe not. But there's been just a huge surge of activity on the latest episodes being put up. So it seems like people that have skipped right to the end just to listen to the most recent episodes. And great, however you want to listen. A couple of things. One, I do want to apologize that you probably came here as a direct result of the interview with PJ Sack. You then checked out my channel, and then the very next episode I posted was, hey, here's this interview with PJ Sack. So sorry about that for one. But the second thing, I just wanted to point out that there are a couple of ways that people do regularly get in touch with me. The first is, of course, through the email starforgepod@gmail.com, which is going to come up in a moment for these prompts. But in addition to that, I just did want to point out that I am active on the Ironsworn Discord, and every once in a while there's at least a little bit of discussion with my little creator promo thing for this series on there. Anyway, just wanted to point that out. I always love the back and forth with people who are listening, so if you want to reach out, I read comments to the best of my ability and respond to them. Oh, that's one more thing. Okay, I'm going to call out, we're 50 episodes in now. I'm going to call out the people who listen to this on Apple Podcasts. You exist. I read the numbers. So far, I try not to make a big deal out of pestering you guys to, like and subscribe and follow all that stuff. We did that back in the beginning, but you've heard it. You're either going to do it or you're not. I'm calling out specifically for the people who listen on Apple Podcasts. Every time I check, I have seen that there has been a grand total of one person ever who has actually rated this show on Apple Podcasts. Now, it was a 5-star rating. I appreciate that, but I'm begging you, please. If any of you are listeners on Apple Podcasts, it does help tremendously to have more ratings on there. I'm always looking to try and increase the visibility of this, get some new listeners, so please do just take just a moment. If you review it, all the better, but just please give me a rating. It would be fantastic. I'm not even telling you it has to be a 5-star rating. Just more ratings, more activity. It's really helpful. Please do that. Okay. All that dumb stuff out of the way. Let's get to what we're really here for, the prompts. So this week, at the end of this episode, the image of Emile sticking through the side of the spaceship, it really stuck with me, and obviously. And so I've used that as the inspiration for the prompts this week. What it makes me think of is like the surgery it might take to get him out of that ship. And so that got me thinking, why don't we use the prompts this week for you to come up with a surgery of some kind, like a medical procedure. Body augmentation was kind of what I had in mind. This would be some kind of elective surgery, probably. And so anyway, I've rolled up a descriptor and a focus for you, and I've rolled strange and life form. So tell me about a medical procedure that somebody might undergo. Again, probably electively, but it's up to you. These are your creativity prompts. Do with them as you please. Tell me about this procedure that somebody undergoes that involves strange and life form. As always, send your ideas to me over at starforgepod@gmail.com. I love to hear them, and I love getting to share them with everybody else. So please send me your ideas, and as always, play me out, music.